Aloha kako. Welcome and good evening, everyone. My name is James Eustace, and I'm the president of the Waimea Community Association. Thank you for joining us online tonight for our regular monthly Waimea Community Association town meeting. It's great to have you all on with us here. I encourage you to follow, like, and subscribe to the Waimea Community Association on our Facebook page, Instagram, or even on YouTube. You may also find relevant information and resources on our website at waimeatown.org. We do strive to keep our accounts active and up to date. At this point, I'd like to recognize the WCA board members, our Vice President, Michael Donnelly, our Treasurer, Jeremie, our Secretary, Nancy Carr-Smith, and our directors, Riley Smith, Lonnie Olson-Chong, David Greenwell, and Patty Cook. And on behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, we are grateful for support shown by you, the community, to hold virtual town meetings during this time. We want to thank you all for your interest in joining us for our past meetings and for viewing and sharing those recordings. You're welcome to revisit these videos up on our Facebook page or even up on our YouTube channel. The Waimea Community Association is a nonprofit organization that strives to promote open participation by all of the Waimea community, develop leadership, and support the smart growth of the region. If you'd like to support the work that we have done and help continue our effort in connecting with our community, you're more than welcome to donate and join as a member. And if this is something that interests you and you would like to receive more information, please email us at waimeacommunityassociation@gmail.com or visit our website at waimeatown.org. And up on our website, you will find an option to contribute and join digitally if that's your preference. Or you're welcome to mail us a membership form that you can find on our website as well. Your contributions and membership allow us to reach out and connect with the community in this setting and support the work that WCA has done over the past 60 years. Mahalo nui. And as mentioned, and for our agenda tonight, we'll be hearing some important updates that address community concerns, COVID-19, the Waimea wildfire, and the reopening of our schools. We'll begin this evening by sharing a few community announcements and hearing from our community policing officers. And after connecting with one of our Waimea County Council members, and discussing the ongoing impacts of COVID-19, we will spotlight our August nonprofit for the month. And then following this, we'll learn more about the Waimea wildfire effort and the impact on our small communities. And for our last portion for tonight's agenda, we will have an opportunity to learn more about our Waimea schools and their plans during this challenging time. We are grateful to be joined by and hear from administrators and kumus from our 7 Waimea primary and secondary schools. This evening, we are grateful to present you with a full and informative agenda. And after we hear from these community leaders and officials, we've allocated time to share your questions with our presenters and guests. We appreciate community members sending in their questions, and we will also try to capture some of your questions if you're posting them live on the Facebook page for that portion. So please use the chat to pose your questions, and we'll do our best to share them with our guests this evening. Thank you to our WCA board members, Michael Donnelly and Lonnie Olson-Chong, for joining me this evening and presenting these questions that have been received ahead of time. So at this time, I would like to welcome back Captain Evangelista and our community policing officers, Justin Cabanting and Chandler Nacino, to share with us a few community updates. Mahalo, officers, and welcome.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, good evening.
Why don't we start with Justin?
All right, okay, so I'll start us off. Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you for having us. I'm going to start us off with the update on our traffic trends for July. So our South Dakota police officers were able to issue 695 citations total. They're able to get 11 DUI arrests on top of that. The highest totals for the traffic was, of course, speeding. They're able to get speeding with 150 speeding and 137 moving citations within that 695 total citations. There were no fatalities on our roads, and seat belts, they're able to secure 38 seat belts, 195 regulatory citations, 90 unsafe, and 50 mobile electronic devices. There were 9 major collisions, how we categorize those. And they did numerous grants ranging from Waikolo Village on Kauai Road and right in Kamuela Town. So I just wanted to do those numbers. I don't want to take up too much time. Our traffic trends enforcement was really good for the month of July, and the officers are actually continuing that trend going into August. So, and our big push is school. We know school started. So me and my partner were actually out there this morning and this afternoon at the Waimea Elementary School monitoring traffic, coming out of Lindsay Road. And I was actually with the crossing guard there on Old Mauna Highway, getting her input on what she sees during her hour there in the morning and her hour in the afternoon. So she was able to point out some concerns. She brought some concerns to the table. We talked about it, and then I went out there to observe for myself as well. We also monitor the rear entrance to Waimea School as well. We understand that the traffic back there gets backed up. Today, however, I don't know what happened today. The parents must have figured out something, because today was pretty good, the traffic. Or the school figured something out and they put it out, but the traffic was really good today. I don't want to take any more time on the traffic. Officer Nacino will cover the crime trends, but before I hand it over to him, I just wanted to put out that our police newsletter was actually sent out today. There's going to be a change to that Coffee with a Cop. We just got some guidance from higher that we're going to actually do it virtual, just like this, online. It's going to be the same day. It's going to be from 9 to 10 o'clock. So I'll make all the changes and I'll get the information out to everyone. And James, thank you for helping me distribute that information. But that's the only change I have before I give it over to Officer Nacino. Thanks, guys.
Good evening. I'll be going over the crime trends for the South Kohala district. So we had 4 reported assaults. No burglaries were reported this month. No robberies.
Okay, I think Officer Nacino probably got kicked off. Oh, there he is.
Oh, shots. Where did it stop? Yeah.
Robberies.
Okay, so we had no reported robberies. We had 14 theft cases. Some of the trends that we did notice with the theft cases are that a lot of them were crimes of opportunity, which ranged from leaving items out in the open, unsecured, to leaving phones and wallets that were picked up and taken. So a lot of these were just crimes that were, when given the opportunity, were committed. We had 5 stolen vehicles, and there were no reports of stolen items from within a vehicle, which is classified different than the thefts. We had 4 criminal property damage cases reported, and we had 17 drug cases that were initiated / reported in the South Kohala district. To go over some of the stuff from the newsletter that we just published, we did have a little article in there about the evacuation route on Hulu Street. And maybe after the captain is done talking, we can have James bring up the little map that we published. So it'll give everybody a little better idea of where it is and the route that it takes. But for now, I will turn it over to the captain.
Okay, guys, thanks. So Officer Nacino mentioned that we had 17 drug cases last month. And I just wanted to highlight the fact that a lot of those drug cases stemmed from officers being proactive with their traffic enforcement. So basically what they're doing is they're making a traffic stop for a traffic violation and then being alert and keeping their eyes open and discovering the presence of drugs. Sometimes, and in some cases, firearms are being recovered as well. And we also noticed that in a lot of these cases, we're catching repeat offenders. But it all starts with proactive enforcement from our patrol officers, which is corroborated by the high traffic enforcement statistics. So the high numbers of speeding violations observed and cited, etc. So all of that tells our community, all of that should communicate to our community that our officers are out there, they're enforcing the laws, and they're also looking beyond the license plate for other offenses that might be occurring in our community in their efforts to try and keep the community safe. I want to thank everybody for their time, and then I want to give it back to Justin and Chandler to talk about the Hulu evacuation route.
Thanks, Cap.
Thank you, James. So the Hulu evacuation route isn't very readily known. I'm sure a lot of people just found out about it this past weekend. It is obviously located at the bottom of Hulu Street. It is on a dirt/gravel road. It is accessible by any type of vehicle, so a car can make it down. As you can see by the red line, that designates where it's at. It's approximately 2 miles. There are markings on it for nighttime use, so you will be able to find your way if you're making it down there at night. So where it exits on Queen Kahumanu Highway is slightly north of the 72-mile marker. So just keep in mind, this route is only open during an evacuation of the village. As I'm sure a lot of people learned, it was very difficult to evacuate the village, even with both routes open. Well, hopefully, now that we can spread the word about the Hulu evacuation route, which isn't as readily known, can help alleviate some of the congestion that we faced on Waikoloa Road.
And to add on top of that, me and Chandler are gonna work to get some signage up in the village to identify that route, so it's more clear for the residents that live up there who did not know about the Hulu route. We're also in the process of briefing all our officers about the keys, where the keys are gonna be, and opening the gate. But that's the only other update I have besides the coffee with a cup, because that was just published and sent out today. So that's going to be an immediate change to that.
Thank you, officers. I appreciate you pursuing installing signs there in Waikoloa Village for identifying Hulu Street and that evacuation route. I think that's something that the village has been asking for. And so I appreciate you jumping on that and going after that there. One question that did pop up online was about the stolen vehicles and if they were recovered or not.
Of the 5 that were stolen, as of a few days ago, only 2 of them had been recovered.
Okay. Thank you, officers. Really appreciate all that you do, especially during this time. We definitely saw you out there on the roads helping people leave the Waikoloa Village area and also directing traffic here in Waimea. So I really appreciate your support out in the field with our crews out there during this time. Really grateful for all that you do for our community. Mahalo to you.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Wonderful. It's good to see all of you there. Thank you for jumping on. And so at this point, let's see, we're kind of shifting gear a little bit here. So I'd like to welcome in one of our county council members that represents a part of the Waimea area. I'd like to welcome in Councilor Heather Kimball for some updates and news on the county council side. Welcome, Councilor.
Hi, thank you, James, and good evening, everybody. Thanks again, as always, for the invite. First and foremost, my sincere condolences to folks that lost their homes in this recent fire, and everybody else who was displaced during the time. We had a fire prior in the Pauilo area, and so responding and preparing for the wildfire season has been first and foremost on both my mind and Councilmember Richards' mind. What we began to do is work on community-based emergency preparedness, and I have members of the Hamakua Action Committee who are working with me to develop a curriculum for about a half-day program for personal emergency preparedness as well as community level emergency preparedness. And so we're working with some FEMA guidelines and civil defense to build this curriculum. We're going to roll it out hopefully at the end of this month for a trial run in Ahualoa and just work out all the kinks. And then we're going to be working on offering that with all of the community associations in the Hamakua district. I'll be working with Councilmember Richards to offer it up in Waimea and hopefully across the county. For me, I view my role as a council person first and foremost to make sure we're protecting human health and safety. And so this has really been a critical focus for me and my team to make sure that we build that capacity within our communities. So excited about that. Along those same lines, we do have a community meeting in Pauilo. Originally, we were going to have it in person, but we've decided with the recent spike in COVID numbers that we're going to switch it to a virtual meeting with Waimea Schools, the fire department, Firewise, Hawaii County R&D, to talk about the wildfire situation, not just exclusively in Pauilo, but just in general. Helco will also be participating. I will share the URL with James so that he can share it out, and others. Anybody's welcome to listen in and ask questions to our guest speakers at that event. So you're all welcome to attend. At the county level, a couple of things we are working on is the building code. So that has been a very interesting and great learning experience for me, but it has passed its first reading in council and will go to its final reading on August 18th. And then I also wanted to congratulate Auntie Kule Kekealani and Aaron Spielman from your district up there, who have just been appointed to the Cultural Resources Council. So very glad to have both of them on that council. And I think they're both just perfect for that job. Really excited to have them there in that capacity. And then lastly, I'll just speak quickly to the governor's announcement this afternoon, which is that all county and state employees will be required to be vaccinated. And then also that students participating in sports activities, coaches and volunteers will also have to be vaccinated. As I mentioned before, we're seeing a huge spike in numbers. It's very disconcerting. We are very concerned about the capacity for our ICUs and our hospitals. I encourage everyone, again, if you're not already, please go out and get vaccinated. Continue to wear your masks indoors as well as outdoors, and just practice all those good skills that we learned early on in this pandemic. We just need to be very careful and work on this together. So again, thank you, James, and the rest of the Waimea Community Association for the invitation to come tonight. And of course, anybody has questions or concerns, my office door is virtually always open. So please go ahead and get in touch. Thank you.
Well, hello, Councilor. Thank you for joining us just for a little while here and just sharing a little news with us here. And kind of off of what the Councilor Kimball was saying here on our numbers, as probably a lot of you are aware, we had over 130 cases, positive cases here on the Big Island today. So we are seeing that surge up, and it is concerning. We've received a number of emails and about this concern about testing procedures here on the Big Island and access to testing. So we're trying to make that happen and coordinate with our council members and our mayor and different teams to make this happen. We've kind of reached this really, and we were recently determined by Department of Health that we've reached the level of community spread. We have a high positivity rate here on the Big Island. So it's important that we continue to wear our masks, practice good physical distancing, avoid large gatherings. We're concerned by this spike, at this time. So please continue to do your part for the health and safety of our community and our loved ones. This really is our kuleana. So please get vaccinated when you have the opportunity to do so. And in regards to the testing side of things and the concern that the community has about that, we have some news and some information from Queens North Hawaii Community Hospital. They're ramping up both their testing and vaccination staffing during this time. Based upon what the governor has said on this new emergency vaccination mandate. So in regards to the vaccinations, Queens is currently offering their walk-ins. You don't need an appointment for these vaccines. This is on Wednesdays and Fridays. So you can walk in on Wednesdays and Fridays from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. The clinic is in the back. And then, so that's kind of by the ER on the backside there. So vaccinations are free for everyone. So that's 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you can go there starting tomorrow, to start your first dose of the Pfizer vaccines that they offer there. And in regards to testing, they are available Monday through Friday in the ER from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So, and you can expect those test results back within about 2 days, 48 hours. And all persons that are coming to Queens North Hawaii Community Hospital for vaccinations or testing should remember to bring your ID and your insurance card. But there's only a charge involved for the testing. However, no one will be turned away at Queens North Hawaii Community Hospital if you don't have insurance. So if you're looking for a place to test here in Waimea, that's one of the places we have here. Urgent care is another place, and we have also other facilities as well in the Waimea area. Councilor Kimball, you wanted to reply to something there?
Yeah, thanks, James. I just was watching the Facebook chat as well, and I just wanted to respond to one question about putting out information with regard to the Pauilo fire. We did kind of learn in the Pauilo fire that communication was not ideal, to say the least. And we have, Councilmember Richards and I have been talking with Civil Defense and the Mayor's office. But one of the things that I wanted to highlight is that the Civil Defense webpage has changed, and they have a new interface, if you go to the first page, with a map that really highlights the location of the hazards. And that did come into play with this most recent fire. So there are efforts within Civil Defense to do a little bit better in terms of communicating current hazards with the public in an effective way. Thanks, James.
Thank you, Councilor. Right, so it's really important that, kind of going back to the COVID piece here, if you don't mind, we really need to protect ourselves, our community here. We have our Keiki going back to school, and many of them aren't able to be vaccinated. So it's really up to us as the adults in the room to take this upon ourselves to protect our community here. And kind of in the same vein, we have dedicated community members and organizations that have stepped up to the plate to support and protect our residents. We're grateful for their dedication and commitment, and wanted to share with you an upcoming event that stresses the importance of protecting one another during this time. So I would like to welcome on Andrew Odell, who is the Legal Affairs Officer at the Keck Observatory, but he's also the lead coordinator for an upcoming event titled COVID POW Friday. Andrew, are you with us? Welcome.
Hello. Yes, I am Andrew Odell, and just wanted to introduce you guys to an event called COVID POW Friday. So at Keck, we I've been working with Dana Wong, who some may know of Naupaka Events, and she approached us about her Waimea Family Food Truck Friday event and potentially moving that to Keck Observatory's lot because of some of the lack of parking at Anna Ranch. And so we've been working with her and saw an opportunity for our first time out and putting this event on, to be able to really make it a sort of a bigger event. And so we've been working with Queens North Hawaii Community Hospital, an organization called COVID POW, I know many of you know, and the Mauna Kea Observatories to put on this event. So it was originally scheduled for this Friday from 4 to 8, but because of the situation with the fires and everything going on, we decided that we would postpone it for a couple weeks until Friday, August 20th. So it'll be Friday, August 20th from 4 to 8. And we really want to try to incentivize vaccination during this event. So Keck Observatory and Canada, France, Hawaii Telescope are sponsoring $25 food truck vouchers to the first 40 individuals who get a vaccination at the event. And if you're already vaccinated and you can show your vaccination card at the event, we'll give you a small thank you gift for being vaccinated already. So I really encourage everyone who on the 20th, if you're looking for something for dinner, come check out local food trucks. Get a chance to, if you know somebody who hasn't been vaccinated is on the fence, it's a little bit of a different setting to try to get vaccinated in than maybe, you know, going to the hospital and things like that. So really encourage friends, family to come and check it out. And also please make sure to wear your masks, social distance while we're there, and make it a good, safe event for everybody. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Andrew. Thank you so much. And we look forward to that event in the community here. Thank you for putting that on and leading that effort. And as we kind of slightly shift our focus to our Keiki in the community and having them return to school, I would like to thank Mary Beth Laychak, who's the Director of Strategic Communications at Canada France Hawaii Telescope and is the lead outreach coordinator for Keiki Heroes. Thank her for joining us to share about Keiki Heroes and the effort being undertaken there. So welcome, Mary Beth. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, James, thank you so much for the opportunity. Keiki Heroes is a program that many of us in the community in East Hawaii and West Hawaii have been working together for the past year. I can't claim to be the lead organizer for the community, mainly just North and West Hawaii where I live. And so I'd like to just give a brief overview about Keiki Heroes. It was a labor essentially born of love about a year ago when we realized that there were so much information about Keiki that was deeply hard for our Keiki to synthesize and understand. So we wanted to ground it in empowerment and simple things that Keiki could do to feel like superheroes. Our current work is on the vaccination efforts. You'll notice here you see a little age gap there. To reach the 12 to 18-year-olds, we aged Kai and Hoku a little bit to work with the vaccination efforts for those 12 to 18. We have resources for in the home for parents, in the classrooms for educators, and for healthcare settings. So this is a suite of materials, including video resources, frequently asked questions about the vaccine, vinyl stickers. So for those 12 to 18, or really anyone who gets vaccinated can get a Kai and Hoku I'm vaccinated sticker. We have activity sheets, and these activity sheets give kids an empowering and safe kind of way to work through what they're experiencing with COVID-19, really grounded in the local culture that we have here in Hawaii. So you can see here our back to school maze. It's a maze that you take with good behaviors like masking and social distancing and respecting the bubble that will take you to school. We also have a symptom and vaccine word search to get kids familiarized with those words. We've also recently launched 2 new comics. One is Returning to School. It gives information in the frame of Kai and Hoku, our 2 main characters, about the safety of school and how school might look a little different. And then my new personal favorite on vaccines and immunity. We thought about how could we explain what the vaccine does to Keiki, and are describing the immune systems and the antibodies we have as ninjas. And so how these ninjas work to fight your body, boosted by their visiting friend, the COVID-19 vaccine. We also have web and social media resources. So mahalo for the opportunity. All of our materials are free and downloadable at the Keiki Heroes website. For those in North Hawaii, our North Hawaii schools, I see all of our school leadership on the call. If there's any materials that you need, please feel free to reach out to me, and we will see what we can do to help you get the materials printed if you're unable to do so for budgetary reasons at your own expense. We can help out with that. For everyone else, don't be alarmed when it says shop. All of the materials are free. It's just the way we have it set up.
Thank you so much, Mary Beth. I appreciate all the work that you're doing in the community to support our Keiki and our families. Thank you. And for the month of August, Waimea Community Association will be spotlighting Big Island Giving Tree as our nonprofit of the month. And to help recognize a particular community hero, I have a couple of words to share from our Waimea Community Association board member and secretary, Nancy Carr-Smith, about our August nonprofit and the community hero selected regarding the work carried out this year, and not to mention the tremendous work that was done recently in our community. So Rhonda Bell was born on the Big Island and raised in Kauai High. She has been volunteering since 2006 to serve our island communities. Rhonda wanted to raise her boys in an environment of giving and serving, and in hopes that they would grow up to be compassionate individuals who think of others and not just themselves. And she hopes that by including youth volunteers in her efforts, that we will build stronger families and stronger communities. And in 2011, Nancy and Rhonda created Big Island Giving Tree, and they've built a long-lasting partnership statewide. The organization has concentrated on assisting the families who fall in the gap, the ones who wouldn't normally ask for help, but need it the most, and also kupuna, because they often need help that isn't always available for them, and some that don't have family nearby or family at all. So we'd like to hear a little bit from Rhonda and really thank her for her efforts, what she's done for our community through Big Island Giving Tree over the last year during the pandemic, and then also more recently with the school supplies, and not to mention all the work done over this last week regarding the fire and this disaster. So mahalo nui, Rhonda. Thank you for your dedication to the community and supporting our families and our Keiki during this time. Welcome.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. During the pandemic, the Big Island Giving Tree went full force into rural communities, bringing fresh food boxes. Our goal was to put money back into our economy. So we contacted farmers, local farmers and producers on our island, created relationships, and bought their items to put into our boxes every week. We stretched from Ka'u, Na'alehu, Ocean View, Pahoa, Puna, Kohala, Honaka'a, and Waikoloa as well. So what we did, we looked at the food basket schedule and went opposite of that schedule. If the food basket was not in Pahoa for that month, we would go to Pahoa. If they were not in Ocean View, we would go to Ocean View, because all of these families needed fresh food. And our distribution is kind of different because we incorporate all the local products, and including eggs and bread and things like that. We did that for a very long time, actually, weeks and weeks and weeks. Then the next thing after, we also fed the kupuna because they were very vulnerable, and we wanted to keep them indoors and not have to, be exposed as much as possible. So we partnered with IPPES, and through a grant from the Hawaii Community Foundation, we were able to provide meals for, I believe it was 6 to 8 months, for them to receive a hot meal delivered to their door every single week, and twice a week. So we did that as well. Our next project was the back to school outreach. And we noticed that our working families were the ones that really needed the relief, because during the pandemic, they were still working. They did not get any extra added help, and they wouldn't normally ask for help either. The good thing is a lot of our DOE schools provided their own school supplies for the students, so they didn't have a school supply list. However, there were some, especially in our community, that had a school supply list, so we focused on that. We ended up doing 111 bags, and the way that we do our back to school is we get the specific school supply list for every student that is referred to us by our trusted community partners, and we shop for that specific list for the child, put it in a bag and give it to them so that their parents don't have to worry about shopping for their school supplies on the school supply list. This year was extra hard for us because we as shoppers needed to go to various stores looking for the particular items because they were very short in inventory, only because there aren't a lot of workers to stock the shelves. And they could not tell me when the next time an item would be available. So I shopped for 6 days in a row, at least 4 hours a day, looking all over the place for all the items that were needed. And the bags were delivered the week before school started. Right after, I mean, literally right after that, the Pu'ukapu fire started, and I needed to help our family get our cattle out in a very quick manner in the dark. So we hurried up there with our trailer. People that we don't even know showed up on our ranch to help us, 7.5 trailer loads of cattle. And we went to safety. The very next morning, I made the call to Tim Richards. Okay, Tim, I'm ready. What's next? I know that there's a lot of firefighters out there. I want to be of service to our own community and to our families here. And he and Mitch asked if I could do this kitchen at the district park. And I pulled my trusted friends that I could count on, Melissa Sumuro, Nancy Carr-Smith, Denise Cabell, and Calais de la Pena. And we ran with it, providing hundreds and hundreds of meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks. And it wasn't just for the first responders, it was for all of the operators as well. You know, it doesn't have to be just firefighters. It was police, fire, road crews, DOT, you know, machine operators, private machine operators, volunteers. It didn't matter. We provided the meal and got it to them. We coordinated with the different departments and the different zone heads to get the meals delivered to them so they didn't have to come down from the mountains.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. You know, we couldn't have done this without all of your help amongst many of the community members that supported you and that really came to you at the recovery site to really see where they could lend a hand and really support one another during this time. It was a very traumatizing experience for many people in our community, and grateful for your leadership, you know, especially during this time and all that you've done through Big Island Giving Tree. And really to support our Keiki going back to school with the school kids. So we really wanted to honor, please.
I have to say that our job was made a lot easier. I mean, we had an easier time because of all of the support that we get from our community members. I mean, I could not do the magnitude that I do and for the length of time if I didn't have the support of my community.
Thank you, Rhonda. And we need leaders like you too. So please accept this honor. We really appreciate all that you do for us. Mahalo nui. Wonderful, Rhonda. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you know, to follow the tremendous work that's done by individuals like Rhonda, and especially during this difficult time, you know, with the Waimea South Kuala wildfire. And on behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, I want to thank you, our viewers, and the community, the members of Waimea, the South Kuala District, Hawai'i Island, and even across the state for your energy, your time, and your donations that went towards supporting our crews out in the fields and towards supporting families that were impacted by the fire. This was really an unbelievable community effort to help one another. And the list of individuals, you know, community and elected leaders, public and private organizations, and businesses across the board really lent a hand. And this list is near incalculable. It's absolutely amazing the care and love that you've all showed for one another. So mahalo nui loa from the WCA to everyone out there that's watching this and for your support during this time. And thank you for leaders like Rhonda and our elected officials for guiding the way and leading us right into the fight. So mahalo nui. I would like to, we're still waiting on one of our guests this evening, and he's actually out, to my knowledge, flying a helicopter right now, surveying the scene of the fire. So we'll give him a little more time to jump in here in a little bit. So at this time, with your patience, we're gonna jump to hearing from our schools. You know, Rhonda talked about, we've had Mary Beth talk about Keiki Heroes and the school outreach through that program. And Rhonda talked about the back to school kits through Big Island Giving Tree. So I really wanted to shift and talk to and hear from our schools during this time. And really, this is a sizable portion of our meeting here, but we also wanted to talk to about the wildfire, and we'll revisit that in a moment here. But I really wanted to give us some time, since our Keiki are going back to school at this point of the year, to hear from our school administrators and teachers about the plans and policies and procedures and steps that they're undertaking, really to create this safe learning environment for our students, for our faculty, for our staff and families, and in turn, the entire community, the entire Waimea community and the larger community here. We are grateful to be joined by and hear from 7 different primary and secondary schools that reside right here in Waimea. And before I welcome our first guest, I would like to mention that the administrators and teachers and schools that you'll be hearing from each have their own guidelines and policies that they have been tasked to follow. These academic institutions also differ in structure, from public to public charter to independent schools. And with the challenges presented by COVID-19, the situation plans shared here and policies may be subject to change. And the decisions will be made in accordance to public health guidance, the law, or any particular school's mission, and of course, overall community safety. So if hearing from our school administrators and teachers here, if you have a concern or a question about one of these schools or institutions that they present here this evening, I do encourage you to reach out to them directly if we're unable to tackle your questions. But in the end, you know, the Waimea Community Association board wanted to provide our schools an opportunity to connect and share with the Waimea community about procedures and actions that they're taking during this time to help carry on this big task, this tremendous, huge task of educating our Keiki while also considering the health and safety of our community. So without further ado, and I'm just going to be going through a list to welcome them in more or less at a random pace here. I would first like to welcome in Tammie Picklesheimer, who's our principal from Waimea Elementary School. Welcome, Tammie.
Aloha, thank you so much. It's nice to be here. I am your new Waimea Elementary principal. I've been on the job since the first part of June, and I'm very excited to be here. Just to give you some updates, currently we have 485 Keiki enrolled in our elementary school. 16 of those are currently on distance learning. Where our normal enrollment is anywhere between 510 to 515. So we are seeing a decrease in enrollment this year, which is about on par with what the state is seeing. The primary grade that is down in enrollment is our kindergarten. So our kindergarten is sitting at about 65, and normally we're up in the 80s. So we're seeing that that's where our lowest grade level numbers are coming from. We're also, as we go through the COVID difficult times, we're seeing that through our buses. So if you're aware, there is a bus driver shortage, which means that we don't have enough individuals to drive our buses to get our Keiki to school. The Big Island has the largest number of problems with the number of bus drivers that we don't have. So the Big Island, and specifically on the Hamakua coast. So what that means for us at Waimea Elementary is that we have 2 buses running at full capacity instead of our normal 3. So this is trying to find ways to support our families and getting them, their children and our students here on campus. Yes, we have a tremendous amount of learning. We've been out of school for 18 months and working on the pickup. It was crazy for the first 2 days, and it was a lot better today. And I really appreciate all of the parents sending out that message and just saying, could you please not line up until 2:20? So really encouraging our families to come. The back gate opens at 2:20 on Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And I know everyone's eager to get first in line because nobody wants to wait in that line, but it does start to back up if we get there early. So on Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, if we could get there at 2:20 and 1:20 on Wednesdays. And I appreciate all the parents who have reached out to me, giving me suggestions on how we could flow through that afternoon pickup quickly. And one of the ways that we talked about is if you could please put your child's name on a piece of paper and put that in your dash. And that way, our adults who are helping our kids get back into their cars, we can read their names and go and grab them as you're coming down that hill. So thank you so much for those of you who have done that. And thank you for making today, it was a lot better. So I really appreciate that. Wanted to let you know that at this time, the governor had a press conference today, and we're waiting for additional guidance from the DOE regarding all of our employees, state employees, to be vaccinated. So I am waiting to get more information on that. Also, our interim superintendent did not give any indication of a school closure at this time. We are still on pace to welcome and have all of our children on campus. Some of the things that we're doing at Waimea Elementary, we have multiple mitigation strategies that we have in place to make sure that our faculty, staff, and students stay safe. The first and foremost is just reminding and encouraging everyone that can get vaccinated. So that's number one. Number two, reminding our parents, please, please, please stay at home if your child is feeling sick. And if the parents or if you feel sick and have COVID-like symptoms, please keep your child at home. So that is the number one strategy that we can do to keep everyone safe. We also like to say and remind that we have great ventilation in our classroom. That's another strategy. We have our social distancing and physical distancing that are in place. We wear masks all the time, indoors and outdoors. And we are making sure that we keep to our Ohana bubble. There's only 2 times that we do not have a Ohana bubble through the day. That's during recess and during lunch. And so there's a lot of adults to make sure that during those times that we are keeping them safe. And the kids, I have 30 seconds left, and I want to tell you, they're doing wonderful. It's so great to see them back, and they're learning and they're excited, and they're really doing great jobs with all of those safety strategies in place. Thank you.
Mahalo, Tammie. Thank you so much, and welcome. And we appreciate your leadership in the Waimea Elementary School system. So thank you for stepping up. Thank you. Next up, I would like to welcome in the head of school for Parker School, Mr. Stephen Dunn. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you, James. It's great to be here. We're looking forward to a great year this year. Our enrollment is about 340 students this year, and so we have we're excited to welcome a lot of new students into our school. I think, like most of my colleagues, we started this summer or running up a couple of months ago thinking that this was heading into a year that was going to approach a different entry point than we're experiencing right now. And we've made some decisions at our school about how we're going to protect our community that we feel like we're able to sustain and really be proactive in helping to keep COVID out of our community as much as possible. So we're going to continue with a lot of the strategies that we had last year in place with masking and distancing and hand washing, and please stay home if you're sick in order to keep everyone safe. What we've added this year is we're requiring our students to be vaccinated, those that are eligible, and we have a really high percentage of our students that are already doing that, and requiring our employees to vaccinate as well. Also having a very high percentage of those that are already vaccinated. And we've implemented a testing protocol that will test weekly as long as we're in the DOH high zone or in the substantial zone. We just want to make sure, our panel of medical advisors are telling us that COVID is all around us. James, you pointed out to us that today was another record. And as we watch that curve, it just seemed to go straight up around the infections on the island. We want to get as much early warning as we possibly can. Our strategy is going to be mitigate, to isolate, and to contact trace as aggressively as we possibly can to keep as many students on campus as possible. We really feel like the game has changed this year with kind of a relaxation of everybody's attention. You can go into any restaurant in town and it's full, where with numbers much lower than this last year, that wouldn't have been the case. So families have relied on schools for years to keep their students safe. If you are an elementary school teacher, elementary school administrator, I would wonder how many lice checks you've done. If you're a middle school teacher, how many sex education classes you've taught or conversations. And so we take that ongoing responsibility of being a community health resource to our families very seriously, and want to continue to do that. I open the door on Thursday mornings for our students arriving at school, and parents are kind of release them into our school and are saying, I love you, have a good day. And students are saying that to them, and we take very seriously that when they do that, they're trusting us to take care of their social, emotional, physical well-being. And so this is another extension of that for us. So we're looking forward to a great year. Other than the challenges that we're all facing at this time, many of you know this is my second year in this role. I had hoped that it would be my second first year, and we would have some traditions, but we've kind of dialed a lot of those back. That any large gatherings are kind of in flux at this point. But hopeful that with all of your efforts in your schools and all of the efforts that are happening in the community, that we kind of resolve COVID as much as we possibly can. Maybe the final thing that I would like to say is just a huge thank you to our first responders and firefighters. The last week was, I can't even imagine how taxing that was. And for all of us at our school, families being evacuated out of their homes, the efforts that they put forward to keep us safe is nothing short of heroic. So with that, thank you.
Mahalo, Stephen. Thank you so much. I appreciate your leadership at Parker School there. Thank you. Next up, I'd like to welcome in a kumu from ʻAlo Kēhau Ka Aina Mauna. I'd like to welcome in Kumu Kala. Kala, are you with us still?
Ai, aloha kako o wau o Kalaokahaku Akima-Akau. I am a kumu, like said, from ʻAlo Kēhau o Ka Aina Mauna. Who is ʻAlo Kēhau o Ka Aina Mauna? I have a video to show, and that will let you know who we are.
E waiwai hoi ke a'o aku kākou I nā kanaka ko maku kai ulu I ola no I ko Hawaii.
Aloha pumehana kako. O wau no o Kalaokahaku Akima-Akau. No kahalu'u o ahu mai au. A kana na'e o ka aina ua ki pu'upu'u ho oia ho'i o Waimea ku'u aina hanai. Like with my students, we teach them who they are and where they come from. Really fast and really short. I was one of the very few women at the start of the Punana Leo o Waimea back in 1995 that we wanted to bring a Hawaiian language program to Waimea. 25 years later, I am back at that nest, but as a school teacher, as a kumu, teaching grades 4, 5, and 6. This year, we have a total of 44 students from kindergarten to 10th grade. Our kindergarten through 6th grade come under Ke Kula o Nāwahīokalaniʻōpuʻu, our mother school in Kēhau. And our 9th and 10th grade come under Honaka'a High School, but they're housed at the nest in Waimea. We follow, like everyone else before me, we follow the CDC rules with our students. Right now, our students in 9th and 10th grade for this week is on distance learning, Kelea'o. Our kindergarten through 6th grade, we will provide lesson packets for them. And on September 7th, depending on where we are with the spike in the number of cases that we have, we will begin Kelea'o or the distance learning. That is the beauty of a public charter school. For us, the value in our program is to malama our kupuna, our keiki, our ohana, and our community. In behalf of our school, we would like to also thank the community for coming forward with this big fire that Waimea had, because if it wasn't for our heroes that stepped out, one of our family members of our school would have lost their home, and that's all they have. If you want to learn any more about us, hear any more about us, please visit us at kauapaliloa.org. We are located in the middle behind of the Waimea Hawaiian Homes Hall and the Kamehameha Preschool. With that, I'm open to any questions. If anybody has any, you can side chat me, but mahalo nui loa no ki'ia hui ana. Mahalo, mahalo.
Mahalo Kumu. Thank you so much. Next up, I would like to welcome in the interim head of school for Hawaii Preparatory Academy, Mr. Fred Warner. Welcome, Fred. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, James. Aloha, everyone. We welcomed our faculty to both campuses, K-12 today, where so there's always that really positive energy. I'd like to take it back probably to June. Last year, we were face-to-face all year. And our school obviously has some different complexities with a boarding program. So we built out our plan in June after assessing kind of some takeaways from our last year's safety plan. So our safety committee and our health service team and our administrators and faculty have been hard at work for roughly 2 years now, as yours have, right? Kind of developing and pivoting as we need to. We built out a plan in June that was probably pretty conservative for that time. And we promoted the vaccination we want to get to 90% in all of our divisions and with our employees. And we feel really good. We're poised to exceed that in our faculty and with our students. It'll take a little bit longer. With our boarding program, we have students who simply don't have access to the vaccine as readily available as folks in our day community. So we'll hold vaccination clinics in August and then again in September. We'll have educational sessions on Zoom. We have parents in our community and in our health service team that'll help educate our kids and their parents. And then I really want everyone to have a clear understanding on this Zoom and in our local community. When we take very seriously bringing 160 boarding students from all over the world to the Big Island. And so we add layers to the Hawaii Safe Travels, both before and after. Initially, it's everyone pre-tests, vaccinated or not. And then we also create a quarantine and a 5-day testing regimen with our boarding students. And we have cohorts on campus. So we make sure that that vector of risk is gone and shifted, and then we start focusing on our day population. So our boarding community arrives on campus the 9th and the 10th next week. And then our day K-12 programs begin the following week. And we'll have a vaccination clinic on the 18th of August and then a follow-up one in September. We'll also continue with a lot of the risk mitigations that everyone's mentioned with hand washing and masks and distancing. We're lucky to have outdoor space and great ventilation within our classrooms, which continues to be a focus. Another area of focus is our travel. Our travel policy for our day and our boarding students is a bit beefed up than just the state qualifications. And we have a focus on our athletic programs. We want to be aligned with our state in terms of vaccinations and safety for our students. So we feel good about our plan. We feel good that we can continue to be nimble. Our faculty and staff are energized to support our students who will be with us soon. I'd like to echo everyone's sentiments about the community support this weekend. What a scary time. As the interim head of school, we were able to maneuver pretty quickly to offer support, but I'd love to continue work with this group on some connected communications. I know we were tracking Tim Richards' communications regularly, but I think that we can be powerful when we're all connected in one, in one effort. So thanks to everyone for that. Aloha.
Mahalo, Fred. And, thank you for your leadership for stepping up, to be the interim head of school for HBA. I really appreciate you stepping into that role and guiding the community in that arm there. So thank you. And of course, mahalo to you and your colleagues there for welcoming in the community during the last week and for the evacuations. That was really wonderful for you to do. A great opportunity for the community to connect with HBA in another way. Of course, that was wonderful. So thank you for stepping up and doing that. Mahalo.
Thank you, James.
Next up, I'd like to welcome in actually 3 different guests that represent Kanu Ka Aina. So I'd like to welcome in a couple of Ho'okumus, We have from our secondary school, we have Kanoa Castro. We have from our primary school at Kanu, we have Keo Mailani Case. And from Kanu Ka Aina's blended and virtual learning program, Ka Oha, we have Nicole Ryan. So I'd like to welcome in the three of you for a little bit of time with us here. Thanks for joining us.
All right, aloha mai kako. Like he said, I'm the po'okumu for Kanoa Ka Aina Elementary, and today we'll be sharing what our plan is for the upcoming school year. All right, so Kanoa Ka Aina serves grades K to 12. We're located in ʻAoʻiʻopuʻu, so that's behind the Hawaiian Homes main village. We are committed to perpetuating Hawaii's native culture, language, and traditions. Where inquiry or project-based learning is the preferred instructional strategy. Our curriculum centers on specific themes and essential questions integrated into academic subjects. So a lot of our kumu are trained in project-based and culture-based and ʻAina-based education, and integrating our standards, our cultural benchmarks, as well as our technology standards. So our main focus is always puli kanu, strive to reach your highest, and promoting the well-being of students, community, and ʻAina.
Aloha kako, I'm Kanoa Castro, the upper school po'okumu at Kanoa Ka Aina. So I'll be going over some of our opening plans for this year. Like you've heard from most of our other school leaders, our other colleagues, that we're putting in mitigation strategies using the guidance from Department of Health to really keep our families and students as safe as possible. So like they said, a lot of cohorting, making sure students are wearing masks indoors and outdoors, doing daily temperature checks, social distancing, all of those kinds of things. What I think is unique about Kanu and our ability and actually our preference to engage in ʻAina-based learning is we have a lot of outdoor opportunities for our students in open air, good airflow, all of those things. So we're hoping that we can continue ʻAina-based education for our students and for the families that are really choosing it at this time. What's really great also about our school is we do have another sector. We have an online opportunity, and Nicole will speak a little bit about that. Mahalo.
Mahalo kanoa and kia mailani. Aloha everyone. I'm Nicole Ryan. I'm the po'okumu for our K-12 online virtual blended program called Ka'uha. Many folks don't realize that we are actually offering this program based out of Waimea from wonderful Kanu, and we're a Kanu program that offers virtual and blended learning to Keiki across all islands. So we have approximately 300 Keiki in grades K through 12 across all islands enrolled right now. We're currently at capacity, but we're always accepting applications. We've actually applied several months ago with the Hawaii State Charter School Commission to increase our enrollment because we anticipated an increased interest. However, we have yet to be scheduled on their agenda. So we are waiting to hear from them. Our application is still pending, but we essentially offer virtual learning that's ohana centered. It's a unique approach to online and virtual learning. We intend to involve the ohana. We make it student centered and ohana centered, recognizing that our students are in their home with their family, and we want to engage the whole family in learning that's relevant to their place. So we offer custom curriculum plans. There's lots of choices. We have highly qualified kumu on all islands, all different subject areas, to make sure we're able to meet the need of all of our students. We have a website that's connected to our main site. So if you want any more information about Kanoa Ka Aina, we're kanuokaaina.org. And then the campus site is kauhale.kanuokaaina.org, and Ka'uha is kauha.kanuokaaina.org. There's our website.
And mahalo, Kanoa Ka Aina would like to reiterate, just like everybody else, mahalo for all the support, especially with Pu'ukapu. Our school is located in Pu'ukapu, so mahalo to all the community members, and mahalo for hearing our reopening plans, which are always subject to change in the shifting times, but mahalo nui.
Mahalo nui, Kanoa, Kea Mailani, and Nicole. Appreciate you joining us online here tonight and sharing a little bit about Kanu. Thank you so much for being here. Mahalo. Next up, I would like to welcome in Amy Sowling, who is the head of school for Waimea Country School. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this. It seems like just such a short time ago that we were all sitting here last year after going through that terrible spring and trying to figure out how the heck we were going to run a school in the middle of a pandemic. And all I can say is we had a great year of training this last year, because it feels like the real thing is actually finally here. We were so fortunate this last year to be here in Hawaii, where, you know, to be honest, we didn't really have to deal with some of the same issues, at least not in the same magnitude as the mainland. And we have put in all of our strategies. You know, I'll just say we're doing the same things everyone else is doing. And just this last week, we've had to make some pretty drastic changes to our plans for reopening based on the current community spread. That said, we are nearly at capacity of 48 students. All of our our teachers and their full-time classroom aides are all fully vaccinated, which is wonderful. We've actually done a poll of our families, and we are running right now about 80% vaccinated in our families, which is wonderful. And that is our number one strategy. I said last year, what we learned from last year is we spend a lot of time outdoors. I say that there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. And that it is here in Waimea, and I think that is true more than ever. We are going to just continue to do what we are doing, and I would just echo what everyone else is saying. Our main strategy, you know, our goal at our school, our mission is to really help children become compassionate members of our community. And I applaud Rhonda for all her hard work and inspiration, and former country school parent. Woohoo! And, you know, there's a lot of academic slide and things like that that people talk about, but for us at Country School, and I'm sure for all of you too, that the number one thing we really need to pay attention to is making sure our families are safe, but our kids feel supported and free to express their fears and anxieties, and learn some strategies on how to cope with that. So our social, emotional, ethical learning is really the top of our agenda. We start school next Thursday. We're doing an orientation on Monday with families to teach them our protocols for health and safety. And I'm sure, like all of you, we're going to have a bumpy road ahead, but I feel fortunate to be in this community where we're all pulling together. So thank you, James, again, for Waimea Community Association for hosting. And I applaud all of you. And of course, thank you to our first responders. I live in Waikoloa Village, and I couldn't be more appreciative of your efforts. So mahalo.
Thank you so much, Amy. I appreciate that. And then, of course, last but not least, I'd like to welcome in Janice English, who is the principal at Waimea Middle School. And Janice, I will cue up your video right now, if that's okay.
Aloha, my name is Janice English, and I am the principal of Waimea Middle School. Some of you know that I was a scientist before I was a teacher. When I graduated with my bachelor's degree in biology, I pursued science before I pursued my teaching certificate. I've also taught microbiology at the community college level, so I feel I have a decent handle on the science behind vaccinations as well as viruses. Last summer, I took the contact tracing class, so I'm familiar with how to make sure that we can keep the community safe by taking and educating myself in coursework offered by Johns Hopkins. So this is a Waimea Middle School public service announcement for the safe return to in-person learning. Waimea Middle School remains committed to the health and safety of the faculty, staff, students, and community we serve. We continue to follow the guidelines and recommendations from health experts and use health data to drive our decision-making. The document provided from the Hawaii Department of Health on Monday, June 26, states that vaccines is a top mitigation strategy recommended to protect yourself and your family from COVID-19 and known variants. Students and community members over the age of 12 are eligible to get vaccinated. Campus health and safety are the school's top priority as we return next week. To do so, we must and will implement mitigation strategies that minimize spread. At Waimea Middle School, we have 3-foot distancing in all classrooms, unidirectional walkways throughout campus, improved ventilation and air purification units in each classroom, custodial cleaning protocols, including student restrooms, student sanitation protocols, including hand washing, personal hand sanitizer, and personal responsibility for keeping their space clean. We also have separate areas for student lunch. 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders will eat apart. We also expect students to stay home when sick. At Gear Up, families were provided with a refrigerator magnet as a reminder of how we all can do our part to keep ourselves and others safe during this pandemic. Unfortunately, the Delta variant is quickly spreading. The Center for Disease Control and the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Hawaii Department of Health have all updated their guidelines to include universal indoor masking for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of their vaccination status. Our Ho'okako Governing Board supports the mitigation strategy of universal masking indoors and outdoors based on the community spread in Waimea and the positivity rate that has been rising. We appreciate all the support of Waimea Middle School. We're here for you. If you have any questions, please call us at 887-6090. Mahalo.
And Janice, did you want to add anything else to that beyond the video?
Sure. So I shared that out on our class dojo, so all families have access to that video and they can play it when they need to. So I did that so that I would have a record of having shared with families what the actual expectations are. And I like to add that the Waimea Community Association friends we are very excited to bring students back in face-to-face. I've been teaching the last 2 days to teach protocols to students to remind them of how to stay safe. And it's been a really great experience for me to interact with the students and staff and model for them what it means to universally mask in class and still teach. Finding the empathy for a teacher who has to wear a mask. So I made sure that I bought like microphones for all the teachers so they can get through their day. I think that at servant leadership, which is I think demonstrated in all 7 leaders here who came before the Waimea Community Association and the community of Waimea, we are here to serve. That is our primary responsibility. As heads of school, our primary responsibility is also to keep students and the community safe. We go to school, we understand that that's the most important thing. So I'm here for you. If you need to call and ask questions, I'm happy to answer them and happy to give out some refrigerator magnets. Mahalo. Thanks to the Waimea Community Association for hosting this and all for the first responders and everybody else who keeps our community safe. It truly is an effort based on the people who live in Waimea. Mahalo.
Thank you so much, Janice. It's good to see you, and it's good to see all of our school administrators and teachers. It's a tough time, and we know you're going back into school here soon, if you haven't already. And we're grateful for your leadership and joining tonight's meeting, really to share out with the community. And as mentioned, please reach out to these individual schools if you have any follow-up questions. Please stay informed to any sort of changes that may occur. So I want to thank Tammie, Janice, Amy, Kala, Keomailani, Nicole, Kanoa, Stephen, and Fred for your time and effort to really help lead our schools during this challenging time. Mahalo nui loa. And at this time, I would really like to share some of our viewer and community questions for our school administrators at this point. Maybe take just a couple minutes here. And I'd like to welcome in Mike and Lonnie to help pose a couple questions for our administrators. And you're welcome to just jump on if you'd like to. and tackle one of these questions at your leisure. Mike and Lonnie, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, James. I'll go first, and it's not necessarily for one school or the other, but I would open it up for the schools and say, in the past 12 months from last academic year to this academic year, what's the one most significant change or lesson that you learned from last year that you're implementing for the students and the parents and the families? And we can start with Janice.
So I'm always happy to share. One of the things that I learned was about ventilation. And so we have less plexiglass up. We have some in spaces where we think we need it, but I learned by taking, I don't know, some class that it has to do with the CO2 available and the number of molecules. Because I'm a scientist, that's where I like to learn. And so we don't have as much plexiglass, we have more ventilation. So that's the one most important thing that I learned, add ventilation.
Well, so for our school, communication is key. So having our teachers constantly communicate with the parents and keep them informed, whether that's through modeling, whether that's through text messaging, video conferencing. So just informing the parents and keeping them up to date of our strategies, our mitigation strategies we're implementing. So we designed a health and safety guide that we put out that's on our website. So the parents know that every time we update it, it's going to be reposted on our website, but just keeping them informed.
I would say, sorry, Fred. I would say I was going to say communication also. And for me, second to that, my big message to all of our families, our students, and our faculty has been, it's going to be okay. You know, we can just take a breath. You know, we're all under tremendous stress. We've got to take care of ourselves so we can take care of our kids and our families, and we'll make it because we have a strong community, not just within our school, but within our island. So it's going to be okay. That was the big lesson I took away.
And let's transition. We'll go to Fred Warner. Because you guys were in person, how's things different this year?
Well, great question, Mike. I think to add what Amy said, I think we didn't appreciate the emotional wellness that how things impacted everyone, teachers, students, families. So paying attention to that. We learned a lot about ways to cohort and contact tracing that we feel like we can grow from in terms of this year. You know, and I think now, you know, we're looking heavily into some wellness checks through surveillance testing, where we tested more last year out of either preventative or in response to, and so we're looking at that. Mainly, yeah, it's being nimble and being, you know, and thinking the best of everyone. I think it takes a lot. Our families really rallied, and you know, we had to make some tough phone calls, right? You need to keep your kid out of school, or please, you've been identified as a contact. And so I think for our community, for everyone to honor like the policies that we put in place, and then honor the fact that we might have to change our policies in the next day. That was really it, Mike. I think just relying on each other, and then paying attention to each other and our kids in terms of their emotional wellness.
Great, Lonnie.
Okay. Prior to COVID, some schools provided programs like after school, and you assisted with tutoring and providing snacks and some meals. Is that something you're going to continue to do? Why don't we start with Tammie for Waimea Elementary?
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to report that we did open up A+ after school. You know, our enrollment, we did reduce the number of students that we take. So we're up to 65 right now, and wanting again, just to make sure that we can do those after school programs safely. So we do have A+ 65 students every day. We are looking into bringing back our migrant ed and EL tutoring program. So that is something that we will do, and believe that we can do that safely.
Thank you, Tammie. Any other school providing those programs? Janice?
So we've just solicited from our families, like we sent our Wednesday envelope home, and we were gathering the names of students and families who would like to have after school tutoring. So we're working on that right now, collecting the data.
Awesome. Stephen, did you have your hand up?
I did, yeah. We continue to offer some after school care. We're actually working really hard to keep those students in cohorts so that we're maintaining those bubbles. So it's a little bit different, but we'll continue to offer them as we can.
Awesome. Anyone else? Back to Mike.
I have a question, particularly for Stephen, and others can chime in, but I'm curious for the community what the reaction is in terms of vaccination, lack of words, mandate or enforcement. And just kind of your thoughts on the feedback that you've gotten from the community, the parents, even students, to get towards that high 90s rate.
Well, and so just to clarify, HPA's looking at the high 90s rate. Ours, we're really asking everyone to vaccinate with some exceptions for religious exemptions and medical exemptions in consultation with your doctor or clergy. We surveyed, like Amy and Waimea Country School surveyed our families and found that we have about 85%. 80% response rate to our survey. 85% of our eligible students are vaccinated. So for a lot of families, that decision was they'd already made that decision about vaccination and have continued to be supportive. Certainly there are families that are concerned, and especially with a vaccine that's still in categorized as emergency use. So we're giving them a window of time to complete that. We're not requiring that, obviously, of any students that are not eligible until it has been approved for emergency use for that age group. So we're trying to be as flexible as we can and understanding, providing opportunities for families to express their concern. We had a Zoom forum last night with our panel of medical advisors answering questions from our community. So the concerns are there. It is scary. We're making a decision at an institutional and a community level, and where families are making a decision at a very personal level. So we're trying to be patient. Everyone deserves to be heard and for us to understand their concerns. But it's not clear cut.
Thank you.
And this, first, we'd like to say mahalo to each of you as administrators and teachers in Kumu. But this one question to all of you is, how can we as a community further support you?
Mm-hmm. Can I say get vaccinated? Is that okay?
That's a very good one.
And please stay at home. Please stay at home. If you are have COVID, you're sick, you're not feeling well, err on the side of caution, keep your child home, and that would be a big help.
I would say,
Go ahead. All right, go for it. I would just say, don't underestimate our kids. They were incredibly resilient last year. We were also in person, almost every day of the year. We were most worried in terms of changes, what this was going to be like for our youngest students wearing a mask all day. They got it, right? That was school. For some of them, there was nothing. That's the only school that they knew. So they know how to stay safe. They trust the teachers in their classroom. So don't underestimate their ability to take care of themselves and to follow the rules.
Thank you. Fred, you were going to say something, Fred?
I was just going to second that, support our policies. They're all intended to keep our children and our faculty and our community safe. And we've identified the vaccine as the best path forward. And so the more of us that can communicate that and support that and educate around that, it'll be critical to our success.
Sure. Amy?
Just real quickly, you know, to me, it seems like if there's anything we can do to combat the misinformation out there, particularly with the vaccine, you know, I still have families who are telling me that they won't, you know, get it because it's going to change their DNA, or it's going to implant things in them and they're not ready for that, or, you know, lots of things that are these, you know, we call them these conspiracy theories. So if there's any way to do a panel like this, maybe with doctors talking about the vaccine, you know, and answering questions from people in the community specifically about it, any kind of education about that, because we've all identified the vaccine as the #1 path to get out of this hole.
Thank you for that, Amy. Good suggestion. Okay, back to Mike.
And I think we're going back to James with, we're going back to County Council.
Yeah, so thank you, Mike, and thank you, Lonnie, for posing those questions to our school administrators. We are going a little long this evening, and I do appreciate everyone's patience and sticking with us. We did want to touch on one more thing this evening, but I really wanted to really thank and share with everyone the appreciation we have for our school administrators and our teachers during this time. And we wish you all of the best this year with all the challenges ahead. We're here as a community to support you, and happy to help in any way that we can. Please let us know. But you are leaders as well, and we're grateful for all that you do in guiding the conversation and guiding our students and our families, and just making sure the community is good moving forward and safe. So mahalo nui to all of you. Thank you. And as I mentioned, the meeting has been going a little long here, but I wanted to really come back to the really traumatizing event that we experienced as a community here recently. And we have one of our special guests on this evening here. We're hoping to have Battalion Chief Bergen join us, but as you all know, he's been very busy in the field. And recently this evening, he was, from my understanding, out in a helicopter, kind of surveying and surveilling the area that was burned and damaged from the recent disaster. And kind of something that we touched on earlier. And part of this effort, and Rhonda touched on it too, and all the outreach and all the donations that came from the community. The Waimea Community Association was also a recipient for donations, and we allocated these towards the purchasing of food and supplies for our fire and volunteer crews that were out in the field. We were very touched by your generosity. We do have some of those funds are still remaining that came in. These will be allocated towards our annual November meeting, wherein we highlight and honor and share the community's gratitude for our first responders, and especially over the past year plus now. And of course, in eliminating the disaster and the fire threats to our community here. So I just wanted to share that with you. But I would like to welcome in, really a team leader here and for our community, who a lot of you have kind of pinpointed was Councilman Tim Richards. He really was paramount in helping to guide our community and keep us informed during this traumatizing event. So I'd like to spend a little bit of time here with the counselor to really share some feedback and also maybe pose a couple of questions to him. But I'd like to give him a little time on kind of like a recap where we are and how it's all been going. So Councilor, thank you for your patience and really appreciate you joining us on the call here. Mahalo.
Thank you, James. And again, thanks for the invitation from the Waimea Community Association to come on and give a quick update. Don't need to touch on the fact that this fire has been impacting our community and community-wide for the last 4 or 5 days. It's been a lot happening very, very quickly. So first and foremost, on the line, I want to give a big shout out to Rhonda Bell, because she contacted me and said, what can I do to help? I said, give me 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I called her back. I said, we need help setting up the food. And I tell you, within a few hours, we had a slick machine running, feeding our first line responders, give them a place to rest. And when I say first line responders, I'm talking the fire, and I'm also talking the cowboys that are out there. And I'm also talking the construction guys that are running dozers and water trucks and fuel trucks. And even just the ranchers that are out there just doing whatever they can do to do it. So Rhonda, thank you so much to the Giving Tree. Rhonda did a phenomenal job. Let's give an update, then we'll talk a little bit more. Currently, right now, we are in great shape. You know, quite frankly, Battalion Chief Bill Bergen should be giving the update because he's the one that has the most up-to-date info. But we are about 95% contained. Everything around population centers is well contained and well in hand. One of the things that has happened over this last 4 or 5 days is in District 9, we have about 23,000 people, probably about 18,000 people on this side of the mountain, not including Kohala. So we've had about 18,000 people watching the fire for us. And what has happened over the last couple of days, anytime people are seeing flare-ups, we're getting communications. I'm getting a lot through my office, either phone calls, Facebook, whatever. I take that information and forward it on to fire and the military, and they're responding that way. So I have to, again, big shout out to our fire people, but also to our military, to the U.S. Army, to Pohakaloa training area, to even the National Guard for fueling our helicopters. They have been exceedingly responsive, being able to put things out very, very quickly. So thank you. Currently today, right now, the big concern for the fire is up on the upper lands of Poano'aну region, Mauka, Parker Ranch, up the slopes of Mauna Kea. The concern is getting into the Mamani forest, but it would appear that we are close to getting that wrapped up. My understanding, this is from Lieutenant Colonel Cronin of Poakaloa, says we're pretty close. Our bulldozer lines are almost closed, and the water they're dropping is making a huge difference. To give you in scale, the military has dropped about 150,000 gallons in the first 2 days, which translates to about 30 truckloads, those big tankers. So that's how much water they've been putting out. We are in hand and we are safe. Once we get through the big problem of the fire, I'm going to say the bigger problem of recovery is before us. And that's what's going to take a lot of effort. The community that's been hit the hardest is that Pu'ukapu Hawaiian Homestead region up on the Makahalau side of Mauna Kea. And they have really been working hard. There's been a lot of people in there trying to help. Both our county people, county firefighters, private dozers, construction people, the farmers and ranchers themselves have all been out there working night and day. And I truly mean night and day. They are taking care, and I've been out there. There have been situations where the fire has come very close to the house and they've been able to save it. Once we get through this, the next step is that recovery. And we're already in meetings right now. We've talked to OHA, we're talking to DHHL, definitely the state, I had a Zoom call today with Congressman Kahele, as far as trying to figure out how to put together the recovery plan going forward. A lot of it's going to revolve around infrastructure needs. For ranches, we're talking fencing and pipelines, and that's what we need first. And so we're trying to figure out how to quickly get the funding for that in place and get it to work. The quicker need is what are we going to do about the cattle that have been displaced? And we have to be sure that they're taken care of. For the short term, the animals are okay, but we don't know where all these animals are, meaning how much feed do they have in front of them? Those are more conversations that Hawaiian Homes will be having with Hawaiian Homes, Dale and our State Department of Ag, to be sure that we can locate enough pastures to take care of these animals as the pastures will start recovering. That recovery won't come till we get good rains on these lands. So there's a long time ahead of us to get this done. In the meantime, we have to take care of the ranchers. We have to take care of the families of those ranchers to be sure that they are in good shape as we come through this. The recovery is going to be hard. That's the bad news. The good news is because of the volcano recovery, we have a template to follow. And so we are going to be following on that. This week, we have put in place in County Council the start of a program where donations can be made to the county and it will be administered through the county. It's not a 501c3, but it is a donation that can be made and is tax deductible. And those funds can be specifically directed to the recovery process going on in here. So it's been a long week, and there's been a lot of people working really, really hard. Big shout out to all the firefighters and the cowboys and the families that have been working so hard. We're almost there with the fire. The follow-up again will be the recovery, and we will be going out. I'll be headed out there tomorrow with Councilwoman Sue Leloy and OHA Representative, Keola Lindsay, and we're going to go out there and have a look and see how we can continue the conversations to make sure that we get the aid coming forth, but have it coming forth quickly, because that's the problem. One of the problems with government is the programs are there, but they take a long time to get the funding. In addition, we'll be continuing the conversations with USDA, NRCS for funding there, and I'm hoping we're going to find some money in that $1 trillion package coming out of DC for some infrastructure. So with that, James, that's kind of a quick overview. Long story short, we're in the babysitting phase. Everybody is watching very, very carefully and closely. To the communities out there, Waimea, Waikoloa, please watch. If you see something you're concerned, send us a picture, send me a communication, and I forward it on very quickly. Right now, we're seeing some flare-ups, but most of those are in areas that are well controlled, but it's maybe a little pile of forage that hasn't burned yet, but there's no concern for it spreading. We had one story. There was a little flare up along the Waikoloa Road down to Waikoloa Village. We had some community members stop and put that little fire out with water bottles, whatever they had. Was it a big deal at the time? No. Could it have been a big deal? Possibly. And so again, thanks to the community. I don't know who did it, but whoever did, thank you very much. So with that, James, I don't know if people have any questions or concerns, whatever the case may be.
Thank you, Councilor. Yeah, I'd like to welcome in Mike Donnelly and Lonnie Olsen-Chong. They have probably a couple of questions to share, and then we can also intersperse any questions that come in from the live feed here. I don't want to keep everyone too long, but I'd like to share a few questions with the councilor while we have them with us here. So Mike and Lonnie, the floor is yours.
I'll go quick, Lonnie. Tim, what was off the top? What are some of the quick top wash kind of lessons learned outside of the investigation? Moving forward, what's some of the lessons learned that we got to take forward as a community and apply, because we know it's out there. Ranchers got to get cattle fed, etc. Go ahead.
Okay, so the quick lessons learned are we have to increase our communication substantially, and we have to have cross communication between all the entities. We had federal, state, and county communication going on out there. The firefighters themselves, the entities actually doing the work, their communication was good. Getting the message out, a little bit problematic, and so I wanted to get that message out. That's where my office started stepping up and then became a regular thing. But I think that's one of the lessons we learned, Mike. There are also some other things. Down at Waikoloa Village, the evacuation route at the end of Hulu Street, the reports I got, that actually worked pretty well. But one of the things that didn't work well was we didn't communicate it well enough. So again, comes back to that communication. The areas of relief centers or evacuation places. And by the way, big shout out, Fred Warner. Thank you so much at HPA for taking, I think you had 70 people overnight and animals. So thank you. We really appreciate that.
Of course.
One of the things we learned was that when we say old age, as far as the evacuation shelter, there's people out there that don't know what old age is. We need to be more specific and articulate about communicating that. And so that was something we learned. We also have learned that having the resources quickly available make all the sense in the world. Specifically, I'm talking about Ohakaloa, and again, the Army, I can't say enough about them, but getting those resources here. If we didn't have the 5 helicopters, if the lieutenant colonel hadn't requested that many helicopters that quickly, I think we'd be having a different conversation right now. So again, communication, communication, communication. I think that's my big take home. And we will be having I don't know what the word is, but I'm going to say debriefing at the end to figure out what we didn't do right or what we didn't do as well and we can do better next time.
Councilman, there was no official statement made that we know of, but not only our fires around here that we experienced, but even on the east side, are there any causes that, any arson or anything that, any reasons for it that we know of?
To date, it's under investigation. You know, we've had a bunch of fires very quickly in the last 4 to 6 weeks, which is unusual. We've all experienced fires. This fire goes into the record books, unfortunately. This is approaching 50,000 acres, and they're all estimates right now, somewhere between 45 and 50,000 acres. That's the largest one on record, certainly in anyone's memory. The actual cause for this fire specifically, I do not know. I know it is under investigation. The thing I'm concerned about is we've had other fires very close around, so I can't answer that, but I know the investigators are working on that.
Thank you. Mike,
Any
you have
other
another
questions?
question?
I would say, and in terms of the shelters and old age, etc., there was, I did see some comments or reviews about just the American Red Cross and that ability. So when you get to a shelter, you know, what is there? It's the shelter, food, in terms of bedding and taking care of families, kids, and animals. Not sure if there was any specifics that came out of that review.
Again, coming out of the lava.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. I just put you on your screen on mute there just because of connectivity.
Go
but
ahead.
I think.
Go
Rhonda,
ahead.
did you
Go
want to
ahead,
jump
Tim,
in?
and then.
Rhonda, if you wanted, do you want to jump in something on that, Rhonda?
We'll go to Rhonda.
Actually, so I was there at District Park the entire time, morning and evening, and Red Cross was there. So they didn't have any supplies at all, nothing. And I wasn't understanding the process actually, because in my mind, Red Cross shelter means that these people will come and they can sleep over, you know, they will have food and water and things like that. But what happened is the District Park was not a shelter. It was an evacuation site. So that means that they could evacuate there. And that's the reason why there was no cots, there was no water, there was no refreshments, no blankets or anything like that, because it was an evacuation site. Now, they were just registering people who were coming in. And I just felt horrible because here are these people in a panic, right? Leaving their homes, coming here. We had one lady on oxygen that needed to rest. It's 10:30 at night. And I thank God for Fred and his team at HPA for welcoming the evacuees and for housing them overnight. And we told them if they need food, water, coffee, whatever, come to us and we will give it to them out the door, you know, out the back door. And that's exactly what we did. They would come and they said, oh, can we have some water? And I said, do you want fruit? Do you want something hot to eat? Do you want to, what, you know, I'm not sure what they needed or wanted. And of course, if they had children, if they were elderly, I would direct them to HPA. And there was a whole process there. They had to go to the tennis stadium first, check in, temperature checks, questionnaire, you know, and then escorted to their dorm. So that was like an eye opener for me, you guys, because I was so, before understanding it, I was so angry because I'm like, these people are desperate. They are hungry. They want warmth, You know, they want to be warm, they want to feel comfortable, and we had nothing. And so I'm like, okay, switch gears, right? What can we do? And how do we help the situation? So the reason why there was nothing there is because it was an evacuation site. Had it changed, and like the lady had told me, she was such a sweet lady. She said, it can change at any time. If they change it to something else, then all the supplies will be here. And you know, the poor workers, they can't change the rules. They can't change what the bosses say or anything like that. I just felt so bad for her because she really wants to help, right? All of these people, but it was just different. But they had a place to go, and actually HPA ended up, I believe the number was 90 some, I think 93 or something like that.
Thank you, Rhonda. Councilor, did you want to add anything else to that part of the discussion with Red Cross?
Yeah, again, comes back to the first question, communication. And these were stutter steps that we ran through with the lava episode back in 2018. Apparently we didn't fix some of the problems there, which I was involved with that. I was going down to the Pahoa shelter twice a week to see animals that were in the shelter. And our shelters are supposed to be animal friendly, but again, we ran into some stutter steps. So again, back at HPA, and Fred, thanks so much for taking in some of those people with the animals, but we ran into some issues, and there will be I don't know what you call it, after action conversation to figure out how we solve these things going forward.
Thank you, Councilor. Lonnie, did you have another question for the Councilor?
One other question that was brought up, Councilman, is that the civil defense timing, you know, their updates, it wasn't in real time. What causes that? I mean, you know, like for instance, Sunday morning at 10:30, they were giving a Saturday afternoon update.
And again, this comes back to the first thing I said, the communication and getting the messaging out. And my office, we decided that what we need to do is we have a pressing emergency that could become critical, and people are looking for information to make realistic information or realistic decisions based upon that information. I don't know why the messaging was not coming out from civil defense. This is something we have to go back and look at. That's why we decided we had to start communicating to the community so they were confident that they were getting precise, not being too Pollyannic about the situation, but also we have some of that ability to message better. And so that's one of the things we're going to have to do, because we've got to get that information out to the people so they know what's going on. We can save a lot of panic and concern if people are just being informed. And so that was what initially, I didn't set out to start doing that, but I think we continued doing the messaging because people were getting comfortable with that. They could come to us and get an accurate deal. And I gave my word. I said, I won't give you any information that is not verified. One of the things that came out, someone was putting out that the evacuation order had been reinstated. Absolutely false. And I think I know where that was happening. But because we had been doing it, I could get that message out. And I think we took care of any panic or concern pretty quickly. And that's something we definitely have to go back, Lonnie, and work on, because that messaging needs to be more timely and more dependable.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you very much.
And now thank you, Lonnie. Appreciate that. And Councilor, really appreciate your time here. I'm just going to field one more question for you. And it kind of it's a culmination and kind of a conglomerate of a bunch of different questions. And it's really, you know, you've talked about communication. Are there other branches of mitigation and or technology that we need to incorporate and have in our arsenal for these sort of events as we experience them down the road in the future? You know, if we have these sort of things in the future, do we need sirens? Do we need greater sirens in the Waikoloa Village? I think that's kind of on the block there, of course. But do we need to look at other things that our county needs to have in its arsenal with fire retardants or a water bomber plane. So those sort of things, right? Some of them are big ticket items, of course. Are there other sort of piece of technology that we could have in our belt that we could use in these sort of circumstances?
The short answer is yes. Let's start with equipment first. Again, big shout out to the Sayer Foundation. They have, through very generous donors, supplied some very impressive firefighting equipment. We have these trucks, I think they're called Bulldogs, and I believe we have 3 in our county now, brand new equipment. I think they're $500,000 a piece or very close to. They are probably as close to being military spec firefighting equipment, and Mike Donnelly can probably weigh in on this. So we have some very specialized equipment for range fires. So we're very fortunate to have those. Number one, you talk about those water planes and all that. Those are available. It's very specialized equipment, as you can imagine. And I was able to tour a place in Washington State on behalf of the county. I was wondering if we should call them in, but those again are very, very specialized, very expensive, and it takes a lot to get them here. To have one on standby, it realistically isn't there. But we have the resources here between the military and National Guard. What we have to do is be able to have the memorandums of understanding, or whatever the official terminology is, have those in place so they can be activated quickly, and we don't run into any of these stutter steps, because we ran into some bureaucratic problems going through this. Fortunately, between a lot of phone calls between Lieutenant Governor, Governor, Mayor, myself, we were able to get things facilitated and got the blocks out of the way, but we can do better. Some of the equipment that we should have sitting around. Some of the water buckets, we need to have those sitting around. The largest area at risk in the state for these range fires is right here in our own district. And so I think it's reasonable to see if we can get some of this equipment to have on standby. So if we can get the aircraft in, we already have all the stuff set and ready to go. I also think some simple things like dip tanks, having those more readily available around the district. You know, they're water tanks. We can use them as stock water, or in case of fire, we can use them as well. Out in Pu'ukapu, there's a swimming pool, above ground swimming pool. They use as a dip tank. Very helpful in fighting the fire. So there are some relatively inexpensive solutions out there, but you came back to the communication thing. Yes, that's something, and there's a lot of technology out there. I think we just need to embrace and increase our messaging more timely, so the message gets out, so we can see that.
Mahalo, Councilor. And, really grateful on behalf of the community for all the work that you did to really connect with us and one another and sharing information out with the community. A lot of us, we're looking for that. So, a lot of community members were looking for that sort of information, and we're grateful to have you really spearhead that effort, along with your partners at the mayor's office, and of course, with our legislators, our state legislators as well, to really get the resources and the paperwork for certain activities to be done, whether it was getting approval to use the Waimea Airport. So thank you for your collaboration with our legislators and our other elected officials. And of course, coming back down to the community level, connecting with one another, lead volunteers like Rhonda Bell and Melissa Samura and Nancy Carr-Smith, right? And also these other businesses and organizations from our volunteer firefighter crews, and really connecting with one another during these disaster events. So really want to thank you, Councilor, for your leadership and really guiding us during this difficult and traumatizing time. So thank you, and mahalo nui.
Thank you.
I really wanted to thank everyone for joining us on the call this evening. We did cover a lot of topics and different things here. Our community is going through a lot at this moment. From recovering from this fire event, there's still more to do with it, and there's more support that is needed for the community members that have been impacted. So there's a lot to be done, and of course, there's a lot for our livestock and our communities to recover from this event. And wishing everyone a safe recovery during this time, and all the best. Wishes to you and your families, for those that were impacted, and hope you're getting back soon to helping in the community again. Also grateful to all of our school administrators for jumping on the call here this evening, and other community leaders to sharing about events that are impacting our community, but to our school administrators for your guidance and your leadership during this time, and getting our Keiki back into the classroom safely and keeping our community safe. Really, hats off to you. Thank you for your leadership. I just wanted to close on a couple notes here. Just wanted to thank all of our presenters. I wanted to thank our WCA board members for jumping on the call here this evening to ask a couple of questions. So thank you to our presenters for joining us, for taking the time to update our viewers, and really to helping lead our community during these challenging times, whether it was from this fire disaster or even we're seeing a spike in COVID-19. So really grateful for your leadership and taking your time to jump on the call here and enlighten the community and share your mana'o with everyone here. So thank you. And as well, thank you to all of our viewers for joining us on the live stream. You are welcome to revisit and rewatch this recording up on our WCA Facebook page, or even up on our YouTube channel, which we'll post later this on the weekend. And on behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, I wish you all good health. Be well. Aloha.